नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Today we are discussing from the Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran, 10th canto, 11th canto, 3rd chapter and 30 verse. परस्परानो कथनं पावनं भगवत् यशः मितो रतिर्मिथस्तुष्टिर्निवृत्त मिथ आत्मनः. Recitation? Yeah, okay. This is 11:3:30.
11:3:30. Canto 3rd chapter verse 1.
Got everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. परस्परानो कथनं पावनं भगवत् यशः मिथो रतिर्मितस्तुष्टिर्निवृत्तिर्मित आत्मनः. 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 Translation. Word to word meaning and translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada's disciple. Paraspara mutual. Anukathanam discussion. Pavanam purifying. Bhagavat of the Supreme Lord. Yashaha glories. Mitaha mutual. Ratihi loving attraction. Mitaha mutual. Tushtihi satisfaction. Nivrittihi cessation of material desires. Cessation of material miseries. Mitaha mutual. Atmanaha of the soul. Translation. One should learn how to associate with the devotees of the Lord by gathering with them to chant the glories of the Lord. This process is most purifying. As devotees thus develop their loving friendship, they feel mutual happiness and satisfaction. And by thus encouraging one another, they are able to give up material sense gratification, which is the cause of all suffering. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, those who are advanced in Krishna consciousness should not envy one another or quarrel among themselves. Giving up all such mundane feelings, they should gather together and chant the glories of the Supreme Lord for mutual purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that glorification of the Supreme Lord is especially potent when performed in the association of pure devotees. When the devotees engage in Sankirtan, chanting the glories of the Lord together, they experience the highest transcendental bliss and satisfaction. Thus they encourage one another to give up material sense gratification, which is based on the illicit sexual connection with women. One devotee will say to another, "Oh, you have given up sense gratification. Starting today, I shall also give it up." One should learn to increase one's love for devotees, to satisfy them, and to give up sense object unfavorable to serving Krishna. And one should learn to view the entire universe as a paraphernalia for the Lord's service. By engaging the object of the senses in the Krishna's service, one automatically becomes detached from them. And as one passes one's day in association of Lord's devotees, one's transcendental ecstasy increases more and more. Through discussion about the topics of Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, one who wants to be free from the harassment of Maya in the form of sense gratification must constantly associate pure devotees of the Lord who have no engagement other than chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord and carrying out his mission on earth. Srila Madhvacharya has pointed out that just as one should cultivate friendship with devotees, one must cultivate a spirit of friendship towards the demigods, who manages the universe on the Lord's behalf. Thus one should live peacefully within this world. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadandikam Vande Aham Shri Guru Shri Utaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Shri Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanjana Gaurangi Shri Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So very happy to be here with Madan Sundar and all of you at ISKCON Hinjawadi, and very inspiring to see the dynamic performance of devotional service. Yesterday morning we had Bhagavatam installation, evening Gaurnita welcoming, and then followed by the programs for the newcomers, and now morning program. So this is how what is discussed here, Parasparanu Kathanam, in today's verse also. So how a devotee can experience joy in his life. A person can, who can become a devotee also, and a devotee naturally, how he becomes very happy by the process of devotional service. In fact, we see in Bhagavad Gita, Lord gives a 4 verses which summarizes the Bhagavad Gita. Some says it is a Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita also, where Lord explains about the nature of the Lord himself, the nature of the devotees of the Lord, and the loving exchanges between the Lord and the devotees. Where while explaining the nature of the devotee, he speaks about a very important verse from Bhagavad Gita, that is Matchitta Matagata Prana Bodhayanta Parasparam Kathayantascha Mam Nitya Tushyanti Cha Ramanti Cha. Very amazing purport Prabhupada gives here. Mentions about how a devotee of the Lord, what is his nature. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So Prabhupada makes a very interesting point in the purport, that in the preliminary stages of devotional service, they relish the transcendental pleasure from the service itself, and in the mature stage, they are actually situated in the love of God. Once situated in that transcendental position, they can relish the highest perfection which is exhibited by the Lord in his abode. So, the devotees in the beginning, they derive a lot of happiness, satisfaction while rendering service. And when they become mature in the love of Godhead, actually they are situated in the love of Godhead. Like we see in the case of Narada Muni. He was a personality, and we know that he was a Gandharva, and he was supposed to sing, glorify the Lord, but he was glorifying demigods or singing some mundane songs in the assembly, and he was cursed to be a Dasi Putra. And when he took the shelter of the Lord's pure devotees, when his mother was serving them, he picked up the devotional service very sincerely, and he was practicing in his life. So he was always remembering what are the instructions given by the Bhakti Vedantas, and he was traveling towards north. So while travels, he came across so many different situations, the forest, the societies, the metropolis, orchards, sometimes the animals. But through that all, he was relating his experiences with the instructions or the discussions done by the Bhakti Vedantas. And eventually when he perfected his life, when he was meditating on the Lord, after that his life was completely different. This mentions in a very wonderful verse. Namanyanantasya hatatrapa patan guhyani badrani kritani chasmaran gam paritam tushtaman gataspruha kalam pratikshanam vimodo vimatsaraha. Thus I began chanting the holy name of the Lord and the fame of the Lord by repeated recitation, ignoring all the formalities of the material world. Such chanting and remembering of the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are all benedictory. So doing, I traveled all over the earth, fully satisfied and free from pride and envy. So by receiving the devotional service, person receives actually the full perfection in his life. Only thing remains is to realize that I have achieved the perfection. So once one get connected, many times we hear devotee says, so you have got Hare Krishna Mahamantra, you have got Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, what else you need? And we feel, oh, it is so easy to say, but it is very difficult to bring it in practice. So ideal, there are so much of haziness in our goal, in our process, in our understanding about the process and our execution of the process, that doesn't make us realize that we have actually achieved the things what we are supposed to achieve by just receiving the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the association of devotees. The point is, when we start practicing the process of devotional service in the association of devotee, the process starts working. Person starts progressing in the internal way. Person starts progressing from Madho Shraddha to Sadhu Sangha to Bhajana Kriya. So when person comes to the Krishna consciousness, he starts chanting and then slowly starts associating with the Vaishnavas, and whole internal dynamics of the heart starts working. And most important process, the longest one, Anartha Nivritti, also comes, which is described as a very steep upward or downward, and it takes long time to climb. But that struggle in the association of devotee becomes very easy. Like all of us have experienced when we travel, especially in the train, then the morning program or japa, what we try to chant, becomes the most challenging activity. In the association, it becomes more easy to practice, easy to remember, recollect the Lord's holy name. But in odd situation, odd circumstances, it's very difficult, very difficult for ones to understand. This practice is so sublime, but becomes very difficult. So therefore, Srila Prabhupada has given such a wonderful process where we can engage ourselves in the activities of devotional service. So Prabhupada given us a very spiritual sandwich. We have morning program where we nourish ourselves with chanting of the holy names, reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, trying to understand. And in the evening time again, devotees come together, either they have nice Krishna book reading or evening kirtans, and throughout the daytime or preaching activities, and throughout the day they have their responsibilities. Householders, they take care of the family or they connect with the society, and renunciates or brahmacharis, they are serving the guru, trying to engage in the different services. This way, whole day they are trying to connect with whatever sound vibrations they have heard in the morning, and the process starts working very internally in his heart. So when a person starts engaging in devotional service in the beginning, he relishes the transcendental pleasure in rendering services. When the devotees are together and they are engaged in preaching activities or serving to the spiritual master, while rendering services, they feel a lot of strong connection with each other. We hear the pastime of Lord Krishna when he was in the ashram of Sandipani Muni. He and his good friend Sudama, they both were very thick friends. And of course, Krishna is the thick friend with everyone. But in pastime especially, Krishna is a very connected, and Sudama and Krishna's devotional service or the friendship is very much highlighted. So when they were told that you should go and fetch some wood for firewood, they both went in the deep forest. and then they were talking to each other and they were trying to collect the wood, but all of a sudden there was a big storm. And the storm, they had tough time and they were trying to take some shelter, and they were underneath one tree with a log of wood in their hands, and also mentioned they were catching each other's hands in the storm. Throughout the night they were having such a tough time, but in the daytime, but in the night time, after the night passed, then next day morning the spiritual master sent his disciples to see where the Krishna and Sudama is there. So Krishna and Sudama had two things very important. One was they were carrying the wood and they were holding each other's hand. So carrying the wood is a sign that they were focused in the mission of Guru's service, and catching each other's hand is a connection they had with each other. I feel like this is the process which helps a progressive devotee to understand the higher truths in our life. When we are associating with the devotees and we have service, just like we see in the lives of Srila Prabhupada disciples, their lives were completely dedicated to the one purpose, that they wanted to see one smile on Srila Prabhupada's face, and for that they were ready to perform any kind of austerities, any kind of sacrifices, and they're just into it. When we hear the challenges of the three couples when they were sent to London, Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Malti Mataji, Gurudas Prabhu and Yamuna Mataji, and Mukund Prabhu and Janki Mataji. So practically they didn't have any place to stay also. They were on roads literally, some temporary arrangement, makeshift arrangements were there. And they were how old in Krishna consciousness? Probably 3 months. And Prabhupada told them that you should go and spread Krishna consciousness. And they had such a faith in the instruction of spiritual master that he said, then that means we have to do it. They didn't know how to go to London. They didn't have money to go to London. Shyam Sundar Prabhu mentions in one of his talk that all of a sudden money they received the money. It just came in their lives, and they started making arrangements to go to Europe, London. And when they went to London, what is Shyam Sundar Prabhu's desire? Yeah, we want to meet Beatles. They didn't have place to stay, and here are the Beatles who are the legends that time, and he wanted to meet them and talk to them. But that desire was so sincere, and they were just with a mridanga and kartal going on the streets and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Slowly, Hare Krishna started spreading, and Yamuna Mataji writes so many details in her book Unalloyed Devotion about their struggles, how in the beginning they had a tough time to stay together because they were not having proper place, and then there were some arrangements, they were staying in different places. One big farm they had where they were staying. The situation also was not so favorable there. The persons were not so favorable to Krishna consciousness. Their practices were not so favorable. But in all such odd situations, Yamuna Mataji was like a temple president of London temple, small temple there. Those temples were like, in early days temples were like this. When you see Bombay temple, they had one small flat like all of us have here in Hinjawadi, and they used to have morning program. There are some photographs of Yamuna Mataji chanting, Gurudas Prabhu chanting there. When you see that, we realize now what is ISKCON Juhu and what it was in the beginning when Prabhupada had a struggle in the beginning days. So they had a tough time, and Yamuna Mataji was so absorbed in the service to the deities there, Jagannath, Baldev, Subhadra, Ramai. And during those days, they got introduced to Beatles, and George Harrison was one of the leading personality who was regularly coming and associating with the devotees. And he offered to Yamuna Mataji saying that, why don't you sing? We'll make you star. Such an offer. What a person can think. Once I become a star, I'll spread Krishna consciousness so nicely. But she says that I didn't have time to think about it. I had so many services in temple. So much of absorption in service given by the Guru. She was concerned about how should I dress the deities, how should I cook for the deities, how should I clean the things, and how should I go to the different places for kirtans. At one point of time, they were invited in one place, Hare Krishnas, for a kirtan, and it was a very different situation. It was like a party, and Yamuna Mataji and all devotees, they were asked to wait outside, and inside there were a lot of lights, and people were having in the night wearing goggles and coat, suit and other things, and they were dancing. And all of a sudden, in that environment, there's an announcement that now here are the Hare Krishnas coming up, and Yamuna Mataji and all devotees, they sit on the stage podium, and everybody starts looking at them. Who are the people they have come here? Why they are here with such kind of attires, different attires altogether? And Yamuna Mataji doesn't look here and there. She just holds the harmonium and she's completely absorbed and starts singing. All of them are closed with eyes because they don't wanted to see the crowd around. Such a passionate, ignorant crowd. And they were absorbed, and she was just going ahead with the kirtan, and everybody was immersed, because it is said that when Yamuna Mata used to sing, everybody used to be in the kirtan, nowhere else. And they didn't realize how that 30-40 minutes passed. All of a sudden there was a big roar when they stopped. Please continue. No? So they said it was actually the faith in the Guru and the instruction that was carrying. And the people were getting attracted to them. So when the devotees are struggling with a mission to serve the Guru's mission as a priority in our life, then actually the things must manifest way beyond the imaginations also. And that's how we see now the London, it has become such a big community. Eventually George Harrison himself gifted the big 100-acre Harrison manor that became a Bhaktivedanta manor eventually. Prabhupada also mentions in this purport of Macchitta Madagata Prana about how devotional service grows. It is a small seed, but it grows in a creeper and becomes a big plant and offers us fruit, mature fruit at the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, even while person is performing devotional service in this world here. So it is explained here that when the complete plant takes shelter under the lotus feet of Supreme Lord, one becomes fully absorbed in the love of God, and then he cannot live even for a moment without being in contact with the Supreme Lord, just as a fish cannot live without water. In such a state, a devotee fully attains the transcendental qualities in contact with the Supreme Lord. So when the process of devotional service starts working, we get purified of our anarthas, then attachment to the devotee, the devotional principle starts growing. In the beginning, we may come, like first time when we came to Radha Kunj Bihari temple with some friends, there was a 3-day camp, and in the morning they woke us up. It was very difficult to get up early in the morning. We were not knowing where we are. For sleeping there was very simple facilities there. And one devotee, one of my friend was telling that, hey, what kind of program they have? They always make you up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Mangalarti, we are standing. Narsingarti, they can sit down. Tulsi Arti can sit up. And Shikshashtakam can sit down. And Shikshashtakam time, those days like mobiles and things were not so evolved. So one used to sing the 10 offenses, and everybody singing along, reciting it along with him. So we used to feel that, oh my God, they know so many shlokas and then they know so many translations. It was very, very different thing in the beginning to identify with full morning program. But eventually, when you started associating with devotees more, then they gave us the service. Now you should recite Shikshastakam. Sit and then start focusing on it. So slowly, slowly, identification of the process came. And when the identification of the process came, then there came the challenge of the mind. Started playing the role. Right? Not now. It is the time for sleep now. I am very tired. And like that, challenges. But eventually, when we heard the instruction, in the beginning there were a lot of desire to go out of the temple hall. And we were told that no, this is like a yajna. In yajna, when you sit, you have to put ahuti properly in the yajna. So 4:30 to 9, you should be sitting in yajna offering your ahuti. And that gave understanding, yeah, I need to be more committed, dedicated for the morning sadhana. And slowly, that identification comes. And when the process starts working in our life, naturally we start understanding the realities. How this process is Kevala Ananda Gandha, it is all purifying. And naturally, a situation comes, a person starts feeling like if I am not with the devotees, I am like fish out of water. Like one devotee was there, he was staying with us in Kanpur for a long period of time, and then he had to go out for certain reason. And he was so bitterly crying. He was saying that I just can't stay without devotees. I can't go away from the devotees. Because devotee's life is so happy, and as soon as person goes out of the devotee association, he can feel the forest of concrete jungle. So although we are not staying in the forest where the animals are staying, but in the cities where there are a lot of concrete jungles, people have so much of ill feeling for each other, desire to exploit one another, and there's a lot of fear, while relating, while connecting with the people. So that is very, very difficult. So therefore, devotees, they take a lot of shelter in discussing about the Krishna Katha, and that's how Srimad Bhagavat Mahapuranam is very, very dear to the Vaishnavas. Srimad Bhagavatam Puranamalam Yad Vaishnavanam Priyam. So this is most dear to the Lord because it always talks about the glories of the Lord and glories of the devotees of the Lord. A wonderful interaction between them. When we hear that Dhruva Maharaj had such a passion for achieving something in the life, and how he pleased the Lord by performing the devotional service. When we hear Prahlad, such a small child, but such a intense absorption in chanting and remembering the Supreme Lord, and so many obstacles came in his life, but still he was so determined and focused, and Lord also protected him at every level and every stage. When we hear such Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Pandavas, then that hearing actually gives a lot of internal peace and satisfaction to a person. So Prabhupada mentions, thus the realized souls in Krishna consciousness take continual pleasure in hearing the transcendental literature, just as a young boy takes and a young girl take pleasure in association. This is the example given by Rupa Goswami. So at conditioned stage, there is a lot of attraction between the man and woman, a boy and a girl particularly. So the natural stage of attraction will come between the devotee and the Supreme Lord, like that. And that is the eternal perfection a person can achieve in one's life. So while performing such devotional service, it is also very important when we are given certain etiquettes to be followed, because when we are not following the etiquettes, then naturally what happens, as you rightly mentioned, some tussle comes, and before that it is like a aparadha starts. One of the most obstacle for a progressive sadhaka in practicing life is aparadha. And aparadha comes because of not understanding why I am doing what I am doing, why I am doing, or not understanding the right position of the Lord, and more important that the position of the devotees of the Lord who are so dear to the Lord. But while practicing devotional service, person sometimes out of neglect, out of ignorance, or sometimes out of passion, doesn't follow the etiquettes, and naturally that leads to the offenses. So Vaishnava Sadachara is very, very important. And therefore Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, while glorifying Sanatana Goswami, तथापि भक्त स्वभाव मर्यादा रक्षण मर्यादा पालन हय sadhura bhushan. My dear Sanatan, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and the great saints are purified by touching you, it is a characteristic of a devotee to observe and to protect the Vaishnava etiquette. Maintenance of the Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. So, Sanatana Goswami, such a pure personality, when he was traveling to go to Jagannath Puri, he drank water somewhere, and because of that, there were a lot of sores on his body, and all pus was coming out. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for him, he was so dear. So whenever he would see Sanatana Goswami, he would just embrace him. And Sanatana Goswami used to feel so bad that Lord is there, transcendental form of the Lord is there, and I am so, my body is so, rotten situation. Better I give up my body. Those kind of feelings used to come to him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told him that actually your body is the instrument, and I have to do so many work through your body. Mahaprabhu used to respect him so much. So here Mahaprabhu is saying that, my dear Sanatan, although you are the deliverer of the entire universe, and although even the demigods and great saints get purified by touching you. We hear the pastime of Sanatana Goswami sitting at Mansi Ganga and chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and because of mosquitoes he wanted to move to the next place. Lord Shiva says, no, I want your association, be here. And next onwards there are no mosquitoes there. So such is the platform of Sanatana Goswami. So he says the maintenance of a Vaishnava etiquette is the ornament of a devotee. So performing this etiquettes, this is very, very essential for a devotee, because not only it protects him from the offenses, but it also teaches others the way how a person should live. Therefore Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita, yad yad acharati seshtas tat eva itarajana sayat pramanam kurute lokastad anuvartate. So when we are living and practicing our life, so when we live and practice our life, in general people also try to follow. People always require a leader, and Prabhupada mentions there are natural leaders. Who are the natural leaders in the society? The king, Brahmanas, and parents, teachers, Brahmanas, teacher and parents. They are the natural leaders of the society. So a person, when he takes to the devotional service, he may think that he is not a devotee, he is not a leader, but by default he becomes the leader by his good conduct, because people in general don't have good conduct nowadays, and they hardly know what are the pillars of the dharma also. They are hardly into the practicing of proper dharma in their life, and when they see, in the beginning they feel little kind of averse situation, but eventually they start respecting, and eventually they start following. So devotee by default becomes a leader when he is staying in the society. Like now when we are working in the company, people say sometimes they are gossiping, they talk about movie, they talk about other things, and while doing, if we also get close to them and start discussing on some subject matter, they say, Are you are Hare Krishna still? Kind of, no? They feel that Hare Krishna means they should not discuss anything, they are very pure people and they are very living pure life. So people start naturally respecting and expecting for a person what he is, who he is. So Prabhupada wrote one letter to Janki Mataji, probably when she was in London that time only. So he says there, please do your duty combinedly without any disruption of peaceful attitude amongst yourself. We are pushing our movement on the background of a peaceful atmosphere in the world. And if we show little disturbance in our own camp, that will not be a very good example. Therefore, everyone should be forbearing, tolerant, and cooperative. Especially when devotees are staying together, then these are the very important principles: forbearing, tolerant, and cooperative. One of the Prabhupada disciples was giving very nice example. He said how they polishes the gems, raw gems. They have called as gem polisher, and they put all gems inside it. They have rough surface inside. They just switch it on, just like we have the potato peeler. Inside you put so many potatoes. In our temple we have rough surfaces there, and you switch it on, moves for some time, and all peels are separated out properly. So similarly, gem polisher is like that. Prabhupada's disciple was comparing that when all devotees stay together, they are like the gems put in the gem polisher. They rub each other's surfaces and get polished themselves. They shine for Krishna very nicely. So this is actually the process of devotional service. When we devotees come together, there is no intention to polish each other. But the world is designed in such a way that it polishes the devotees who are with a genuine desire to serve and to get purified. The same world is designed when there is no genuine desire to get purified. It acts very differently for the outside people. Three modes of material nature particularly plays a very strong role in this, because everybody is in different modes, and even sometimes without meaning those modes plays a certain roles and creates kind of a disturbance or misunderstanding or kind of separation between the devotees. And sometimes time also plays a very, very crucial role. Somebody has to rush for the company, and somebody has to do offering to the Lord, and somehow things were little delayed, some misunderstanding developed, and from there everything started, and such misunderstanding accumulated over a period of time carries a lot of things in the mind also impure, holds on so many things, and that leads to the kind of situation. But when the devotee has a genuine desire to serve the Lord, to serve the spiritual master, to purify our own heart, then what happens? Krishna plays a very vital role. What is the shloka from Bhagavatam? It says, Shrunvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtanam hridayantasto yavadarani vidhunoti surutsata. So the Krishna sitting in our heart, he starts cleaning our heart. When Sunnata Swakata Krishna, when we try to give oral reception to the transcendental sound vibration. So when we are in association of devotee, when we are staying together with the devotees, that itself is a declaration that I really want Krishna as my Lord and Master, and I am ready to perform services to him, or ready to take some challenges and be path of purification in my heart. And this is how he says. And therefore cooperation is very important, because considering the goal, like I was reading I'll build you a temple, the story of Juhu, written by Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and such a raw situation get to see there. Giriraj Maharaj is dealing with different devotees. One devotee was focusing on developing the garden, but he was not getting sufficient funds. He was so irritated that when the temple management is not giving funds, he was time and again coming and pushing Giriraj Prabhu those days. And he became so angry. At one point of time, he said, "You don't give me money." And what did he do? Not only beat, he just spat on Maharaj's face. like that. There was another new devotee who came to join the ashram that time. By seeing that he was fainted only. And Giriraj Maharaj was very disturbed, You are trying to render some service. You are also volunteer, everybody is volunteer. And people not understanding you. He wrote a big letter to Prabhupada. And Prabhupada says that I understand these are the problems there. But please try to understand and hold on to the situation till the time I come back to Juhu. Very soon I am going to come. Tell so and so to take care of garden, but don't disturb him. You also take care of your this thing, particular aspect. Some complaints are coming, just hold on it for some time. When I'll come, and then Prabhupada mentions, we are trying to spread the mission worldwide. Only because of the sincere devotees like all of you are cooperating, we are able to do something in this moment. So Prabhupada had a very clear goal that he wanted to do Prithvi Acharya Nagaradi Gram Sarvatra Prachar Hoi Bimorana. And he was expecting everybody's cooperation. And Srila Prabhupada was personally actually ready to go at any level to cooperate with the situation. He was so humble. We hear that pastime of Prabhupada in Australia, and they were trying to do initiations, and he was asking for fruits, and devotees were bringing the cut of fruits in a dish to honor. And there are so many mistakes happening, and Prabhupada was irritated. And Prabhupada said, he was a little angry and shouted a little bit. And one hippie was standing next to him, saying, Swamiji, don't become angry, chant Hare Krishna. In such situation, if somebody is given such advice, what will he say? Do you know who am I? How many rounds you chant? We will question him only. Who are you to tell me? But Prabhupada, without thinking another word, started calling Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. So humble, It needs a lot of guts to take some advice from hippie. Especially when you are delivering hippies. So he was so humble, he was so cooperative himself. He was ready, he was very flexible in a situation. So therefore, this aspect of being tolerant, being cooperative is so very important. And Prabhupada mentions this in Krishna book. Very bold statement, very loud statement. What he says, the greatness of a person has to be estimated by his ability to tolerate provoking situations. So how a person is great will be known from his ability to tolerate. The more is tolerant, the more is great. Great in the eyes of Supreme Lord. May not be for the outsiders. Haridas Thakur was really great. He was so tolerant. He was not tolerant, he was forgiving also. He was bitten in so many places, but still he was thinking, my dear Lord, please forgive them. They don't know what they are doing. So he was tolerating also and forgiving also. So this aspect of forbearing, tolerance and cooperation is very, very important. And naturally, when we are practicing, we are taking certain good standards and trying to apply in life, then naturally becomes very inspirational for others also to follow. Therefore, Sanatana Goswami says to Haridas Thakur, what he says? Apani acharya ke ha na kare prachar, prachara kare na ke ha na kare achar. Some behave very well, but do not preach the cult of Krishna consciousness, whereas others preach but do not behave. Acharya prachara namera karah duhi karya, tumi sarva guru tumi jagatera arya. You simultaneously perform both activities in relation to the holy name by your personal behavior and by your preaching. Therefore, you are the most advanced devotee in the world. So when we understand the standards of devotional service, there are many etiquettes given in our Vaishnava etiquette manual, and there are many instructions given by Srila Prabhupada. When you start following it, slowly, by our own practice and by our trying to help others, we get help ourselves actually. So Sanatan Goswami saying to Haridas Thakur that you are Jagate Rahare, you are the Jagat Guru because you are practicing. So when person starts setting such a good example, then naturally he becomes accepted as a leader and person can help others. A person doesn't want to become a leader, but he is happy to distribute Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings, and therefore he would like to take up this very sincerely in his life and try to practice in his life. So Prabhupada was writing one letter to Hayagriva Prabhu. He says in that letter, it was said that about Lord Chaitanya, Apani Acharya Prabhu Jivare Sikhai. That is, he personally used to practice himself, the injunctions, and then he used to teach others. That is our principle. Unless one is perfectly behaved person, he cannot teach others. My only request is that all the GBC members should be strictly to the standard of life and see that others are also following them. Then our centers will be well managed. Kindly do that and advise your co-workers to do that. So Prabhupada was encouraging Hayagriva Prabhu and all the devotees to practice a good standard of devotional service and also encourage others to do so. So here Saraswati Goswami Maharaj says very nice one statement that there is a dynamic tension between practice and preaching. When we are practicing and when we are preaching, there is always a tension. We want to teach others, but sometimes we teach little more than our capacity. And then we are sometimes in a situation to practice ourselves. We find little difficulty. So this is the anxiety of a growing sadhaka. But he nonetheless does it because he believes in the instructions of the spiritual master and he wants to render the service. And when he is rendering the service, he is through that dynamic tension, he is growing himself and he is also helping others to grow in their devotional service. So this practice and preach, and it brings a lot of anxiety. So many times person doesn't want to then preach. He said, I'll just practice. And person may become just a bhajananandi, that I chant my rounds and peaceful in my life. Let the world go in their own direction. I am happy, I will continue. But actually, the acharyas have given preaching also as one of the sadhana only to us. Not that we have become very great person who can preach, but we are practicing and we are trying to share for our own realization. It is said, if you want to teach someone something, give him that subject to teach to somebody else. So when we try to explain to others, then we ourselves get more enlightened. Wow, wonderful, very nice subject. Whether others understands or not, that's the second thing. But first I understood, that is best thing. No? So therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jara dekho tare kaho Krishna upadesh, Amar agya guru hiya tara yahi desh. Go everywhere, start preaching Krishna consciousness, bolo Krishna, bhajo Krishna, karo Krishna shiksha. And there is very wonderful given program in our movement here. Srila Prabhupada gave book distributions. Srila Prabhupada gave Harinam Sankirtan to go and preach to the masses. One time Loknath Maharaj was explaining his own experience when he joined Juhu temple. He was in the temple after morning program, after morning Bhagavatam class, and Giriraj Swami, that time president, he came there and he said, so you are here, why don't you preach to the newcomers? Loknath Maharaj said, I am just new joining, what can I preach? I can't preach, I don't know much philosophy. So Giriraj Maharaj asked him, so you were in Bhagavatam class morning? He said, yes. What you heard? You can remember 2-3 points? He said, yes. He said, just repeat that to others. Simple. So our philosophy is very nice, very simple, very clear. Anybody would go and tell, you are not this body, you are soul, and not this. This is my hand, this is my leg, this is my body. Who you are? Convincing. Wow, very nice. You tell to others, it becomes a big revelation for them that yes, I am not this body. Because people are so much engrossed in the bodily consciousness. One time one devotee was going and very boldly preaching, you are not this body. But the way he was convinced that people should be convinced that they are not the body. One person sitting in the audience also was convinced that I am this body. He said this, if I am not this body, then whose body I am? He was fully convinced that I am the body. Soul is somebody else. So, when you go and start relating with the people, start talking to the people, people have their different conceptions and understanding. Many times we feel, especially in India, people have so much big understanding, but not able to practice simple things in their life. I was traveling from Ujjain back to Kanpur. So that time I met one person, Panditji. Kanpur wala Panditji was there. And as soon as I sat on my seat, then immediately said, स्वामी जी उज्जैन गए थे? हाँ, दर्शन करने गए होंगे। रेडियस से हम गए थे उधर दर्शन करने के लिए। बोले एक बात बताइए, विष्णु कृष्ण से आए या कृष्ण विष्णु से आए? So I knew that what is going to come forward. I said, मैं बताऊंगा तो बिलीव करोगे? Then he started giving his own different logics, And while speaking all this thing, he was having UP special Kanpur Pan Masala in his mouth. He's talking about Krishna expansions, and he doesn't know that he has to give up intoxication. So people may have very lofty understanding, but they don't have simple practice in their life. But devotees, they are very pure in their practice. They are following 4 principle. That itself is a big achievement in today's world. People have a lot of respect for devotees for their pure life, what they live, no meditating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. And therefore, it is very important for devotees to not only practice but also preach, because while preaching we learn ourselves more and we grow ourselves more. At the same time, there is a caution that when we are practicing and we are trying to understand, or especially when we are given as a role as some service leader somewhere in some service, that go and coordinate this service. So naturally our behavior becomes very important, all the more important. Our expectation from us grows more. Bhagavatam speaks about such 2 leaders where person was ready to follow and how he along with his whole followers uplifted. And there's another example where a person was not ready to follow and he along with his whole followers doomed. So Bhagavatam speaks about Rantidev. He was such a selfless king. So he was sharing whatever was coming. Even he was tested by many demigods whether he is a really caring king or not. And while doing so, Rantidev was just completely giving himself to others. And Bhagavatam mentions that all those who followed the principle of King Rantidev were totally favored by his mercy and became a pure devotees. They all become a pure devotee because they all followed Rantidev and his pure spiritual principles. So similarly, we have Srila Prabhupada as one of the very legendary Acharya, and there are many wonderful Vaishnavas who are following Srila Prabhupada's footsteps. So by their help, with their practice, we can actually grow in our spiritual life. We just simply follow their instruction in our life is perfect. And we have another example of somebody like Indradev. Indra was sitting in a big assembly, receiving all praises and glories and prayers from his subordinate. And while doing so, there happened to have Brihaspati's arrival, but he was not respectful, he was disrespectful. And eventually Indra, along with all his devatas, had to leave the heaven and go away from that situation. Therefore, this Vaishnava Sadachar is such a important etiquette to be practiced amongst ourselves while dealing with outsiders, and that gives a lot of fencing to our own devotional service and also progressive path in devotional service. So these are the some important aspect when we are practicing devotional service or a growing in devotional service. And a devotee who progresses from Kanishta to Madhyama to Uttama with the practice of these wonderful principles. So I'd like to stop here. If there are some reflections or questions, we can discuss. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you so much for this. The host is not allowing participants to unmute themselves. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you so much for this wonderful session on Vaishnava etiquette, the more we should have to preach, and also you have given so many instances where devotees have shown this in our movement earlier. I wanted to understand two practical tips.
Yes.
So many times we have our inherent nature, which may be against the Vaishnava etiquette. Maybe we talk in a particular way, maybe we have been dealing with people in different ways. So how you have handled it in your life, that you have observed, okay, I should rectify it, and then how you approach that, what is your approach or how I should approach? Like, there are ample things in my life which I feel, but I find it difficult. So how I should approach basically. I have understood कि नहीं काम तो करना है मेरे पे इस पे, but how practically I should approach वो हो ही जाता है.
Yeah, good example. Good question. Especially when we are staying in India, where there are so many states and so many different ways of living life, and everybody has their own upbringing actually. And because of that upbringing, person has certain inherent nature. Like if you have from devotees from South India, they are naturally to have respectful attitude. If you go to the north, they are naturally little assertive to speak about, to talk about. You go to the west or you go to the east, different natures are there, right? And sometimes, especially in international society, we have all flavors together, and when we are not able to understand these dynamics, many times we can get into a lot of offensive zone. And I personally also have experienced certain situation because before 2012 I didn't have much access to any other place other than Maharashtra. I was more in Maharashtra, but first time I was told to Kanpur. So Kanpur situation was like a UP, typical different in cultural setting and expectations. And we had some devotees from UP, some Bihar, and one devotee was so loud in his voice and in his tone. अरे प्रभु जी आपको बोला था ना. तो आई यूज्ड टू फील, अरे मतलब आप रिक्वेस्ट कर रहे हैं या ऑर्डर कर रहे हैं. आई यूज्ड टू फियर, although he was my subordinate, but I used to feel इसको क्या बोलना अभी. So I told my superior, I said, I have a tough time dealing with this person. So this devotee went and told that devotee. Then devotee came to me. प्रभु जी हमारे मन में ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, हम बहुत विनम्रता से आपको बोल रहे हैं. I said, I understood now. This person's setting is like this only. His volume is little tuned high. He doesn't have bad intention, but his tune is little high. His loud tone is there. So sometimes we judge a person from the externals actually. So how I try to serve in this little different situation is, I always try to give benefit of doubt for other person and try to see how can I see him in the right direction. And that made me also change in my life a lot. Previously, I was not so open to the all understanding. Certain reservations were there. No, this is one what devotee means. It should be. We have read from the scriptures. We have two examples, and this should be the everybody. This is how I have to see everyone. So that becomes a tough challenge because everyone cannot fit in your size proper what you have ascertained yourself. Or some devotees are very respectful, but those who are little bold devotees, they feel, hey, this useless fellows, they don't say something kind of too mild, too docile kind of feeling also comes. So vice versa situation comes. But we have to understand that anybody who is in Prabhupada's mission actually is a very Manushanam Sahasraveshu. He is one amongst the thousands. He is not simple person. And we sometimes take a devotees association granted actually. When we don't have devotees association, we understand what is the level of our own devotional service. We don't have that much strength. But with all faults, all Vaishnavas are good because they are giving me good association. So when we have such a respectful attitude, understanding that there are cultural upbringing and sometimes people are vocative, they are talkative, but their heart is very simple. And when we deal with respect, eventually we also get to know what their intentions are. So I would say respectfully we have to understand the cultural difference, and we have to respect with the respect we have to deal with the person. So that will help us to understand each other, and we also certainly have to work on our own internal things. We have to pray to the Lord. Difficult to change our personality immediately, and sometimes after time also person doesn't change himself. But if you have sincere desire to serve Vaishnava, then Krishna actually blesses us. Some devotees have that nature that they are ready to please Guru and Krishna. I personally have seen some devotees. Their nature were completely different, but for the service and pleasure of Guru, they changed themselves so much. Just like we see from Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran. Devati, Mother Devati was a daughter of not on Swayambhuman, what was his kingdom? On planet only. And she was married to Kardamuni, a sage. But she gave up her whole preconceived notion about what the life means. She was staying in the palace, but she had a desire that no, my father has given me to my husband, so I need to. So this is very ideal for a guru-disciple relationship. When that kind of attitude is there, then a lot of transformation comes. She was so beautiful that even the Gandharvas fell from the sky down, just by looking at her beauty. And when she was serving, one point of time she was so emaciated that Kardamuni, when he opened his eyes, saw who is that lady? He forgot that she is his wife. So she completely gave up herself. So this is a ideal example we see. Srila Prabhupada himself, such a tough time at the age of 70. To travel within India itself is a very tough challenge. At the age of 70, person crosses the road. Family member says, हमारे दादाजी एकदम बढ़िया है, अपने आप सब कुछ कर लेते हैं, रोड भी क्रॉस कर लेते हैं, किसी का हाथ नहीं पकड़ते. And Prabhupada crossed 7 oceans actually, and that too Jaluduta, not by airplane. Nowadays we can also cross. But by Jaluduta is very tough. Seasickness, none of us have experienced. I don't know, some of you may have. But very dangerous. Many times I heard that people jump in the ocean to get rid of seasickness without caring what is there in the ocean. There may be crocodiles inside, shark, but it's so frustrating. They jump in the water. But Prabhupada traveled at the age of 70. But it was sincere desire to please his spiritual master, and his prayers reflect actually his situation and his mission. He says that he has full conviction in the words of Srimad Bhagavatam, and if only these words can reach to their heart, they will be transformed. That full conviction he has. But he says, my dear Lord, I don't know how it will happen. So please help me reach it out to their hearts so that they can be changed. This is my prayer. Make me dance, like that. So person depends on the Supreme Lord and his mercy also. When he sees sometimes his natures are coming in between service to the Vaishnavas. We hear great leaders in our society, Tamal Krishna Maharaj or even Bhartadiyas Maharaj, at one point of their subordinates had such a challenging situation. They felt too much, they are too fast, they are too electrifying personalities, itna nahi chahiye. But when they were complaining to Srila Prabhupada, disciples or his followers or his subordinates, then they reflected in their lives that, oh, I am trying to serve them, but it is going too much, it's beyond their capacity. So I need to little tone down. And I see actually many devotees changing their life for the service of the Vaishnavas. When we try to serve someone, then that person's pleasure is a priority for us. And then we slowly try to work on it. And although it is beyond our capacity to change, but when we are prayerful to the Krishna, prayerful to spiritual master, by their mercy actually transformation come in our heart. So therefore, devotional service is very sublime, it's transcendental. How it happens, nobody knows, but it happens. Hare Krishna. Anybody else? Yes, bro.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for this wonderful class. My question was, my question was, you mentioned about this wonderful example of Srila Prabhupada's humility when if we will chant and started chanting. So sometimes also in our roles, sometimes service is given in such a way that you are supposed to give directions or take decisions, or there's a subtle authoritative
Role we have to play.
That creates a kind of a in your mind that you are little that creates in your mind that you're little at a higher position, or that humility is not, sometimes it gets lost. So how do we ensure that you remain even humble and then are able to serve in that position?
Yeah, this was a challenge faced by Brahmaji also. Yeah. Bhagavatam whole chapter is there on the prayers of Brahmaji. When he was told to render service, he first prayed to the Lord, my dear Lord, I am going to create, and that creation will give me a feeling that I am a creator. So please save me from this Maya. Brahmaji also prayed. And Srila Prabhupada also prayed. Srila Prabhupada once was speaking and he said, what is this Maya? I will kick the Maya out. And devotee said, Jai Prabhupada, very nicely. And Prabhupada went inside the temple and he was praying to Radharani, my dear Radharani, please save me from Maya. One devotee was standing next to him. He said, Arey, Prabhupada is duplicitous. Outside saying something else, inside saying something else. But he was very frank. He went and asked Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, outside, inside. Prabhupada said, because I am praying, that's why I can say that. Because I am taking blessings from Srimati Radharani. On her behalf, I am doing this service. Because I have to remove the illusions of conditioned souls. So, prayers is very important. Whenever we are given them service, we can remember that without the empowerment given by our spiritual master, we are no one actually. Even our own mind doesn't listen to us, what to speak of family member and the society. So why the others will listen to us? But because we are empowered by our spiritual master, because we are empowered by our spiritual authorities, people listen to us. So that, but at the same time, there has to have certain way and directions to move forward. So with that understanding, with that mood, we have to little be firm and assertive in terms of rendering our service. Because unless you are not firm and assertive, service also doesn't happen properly. So it's little tough, but we can be prayerful and cautious not to offend Vaishnavas and be focused in the service, what service is given to us. Hare Krishna. Okay, should we stop here or you have a question?
We have one online question.
Online question.
Yeah. Madhavi, can you speak a little louder?
Am I audible?
Yes. Yes, Madhavi.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. Thank you very much for the very wonderful session, Prabhu. Prabhu, my question is, you mentioned about practicing and preaching Krishna consciousness. Sometimes as we are preaching, we are, like you mentioned about not being able to practice adequately, but still we are preaching based on Prabhupada's transcendental purpose. So we absolve ourselves by saying that giving this class for my own purification, and we think that absolves us of the guilt of preaching so high transcendental philosophy will not being able to practice so much. So what should be the mood at the time of preaching? Not be guilty at the same time to preach with that conviction, because sometimes when we are not practicing, we don't get that conviction to preach as Prabhupada would have desired us to preach. So can you share some tips about it? Hare Krishna.
Yeah, primary understanding that we are preaching, especially when we get a feeling that I am the doer, I am preaching, that creates a little obstacle in our process. But we are trying to focus that I am trying to repeat acharyas, I am trying to tell this to others. Then that helps us to not get into the guilt consciousness or not get into something different other than focusing on service. So a preacher, he always carries a very humble mood that he is not qualified, but my guru or parampara, Lord Krishna, is very competent. Like Prabhupada used to say that Swami may be small. I think that was a newspaper article. Swami is small, but his message is big. Short Swami was there, but his message was big. Like Prabhupada was so humble. One time one person asked him, so Swamiji, your followers are bringing you black Cadillac, big car. He said, what is this car? It's made of iron. They should bring a car of gold. Not that Prabhupada wanted gold car, but Prabhupada knew that the message I am carrying, that is Lord Krishna's message, and he was very convinced about it. He was always he was seeing himself as a carrier of Lord Krishna's message. Even while going to America, he had a strong feeling that I am a servant and Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran is going to America, and I am assisting Srimad Bhagavad Mahapuran. I am going with Bhagavad. So such consciousness will come when we have a lot of love and affection and a kind of a service attitude towards our spiritual master Srila Prabhupada. That only because it is their desire that they want me to preach. Although I am so unqualified, I am trying to speak. I have fault. This is the natural understanding of a good preacher, that I am with faults, but I am struggling to come out. And also a preacher speaks as per his realizations. He doesn't just impress the people just by his words, but he speaks, and whenever he speaks beyond his realization, he quotes the Shastras or he quotes the Parampara or Acharyas, that they said like this. I am also indirect meaning is that I am also practicing, I am just quoting what they are saying. But it is important, this is very important. Point is very important. So understand the point. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said like this, or Srila Prabhupada said like this. And therefore we all should try to practice it. That is the mood. So these are my some thoughts, Mataji. Hope it gives some clarity. Hare Krishna. Stop here. ग्रंथ श्रीमद् भागवत महापुराण की जय, श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे।